Welcome to the Krusty Fox. Ladies and gents, we're finally on the approach for a bumper Season 2 finale of Sex and the City, an episode creatively entitled X and the City. The local time is 9 PM, October 3rd, 1999. If you take a look out of the windows on both sides of our aircraft, you may catch a glimpse of this.
It was a shitty thing. I'm a shitty person.
You're not a shitty person.
I am shitty.
This.
These steps are very dangerous.
And this.
Can it be that it was all so simple then? Or has time rewritten every line?
Please use the onboard facilities to drop a like and subscribe if you enjoy your trip with us today. For your safety and the safety of those around you, please remain seated until the video comes to a full stop for last week's top comment and an important update on the future of the channel. And if you soil your seat, please scrape clean as best you can and take it with you. We start on an appropriately manic note this week. A shopping trip for Carrie and Miranda rapidly devolves into flower shop vandalism as Miranda goes full pantomime in an effort to escape her approaching ex, Steve.
Steve!
At a later lunch date, Miss Hobbs's panic defense for her latest bout of loony behavior is that she couldn't just stand around and chit-chat with a former two-person push-up partner, despite literally chasing Skipper down the street a few weeks ago for exactly that reason. And possibly because all that's left of most of her exes is a box of Dexter-style blood slides hidden behind her air conditioner. This all leads to a conversation about whether it's possible to stay friends with an ex. Miranda's never been able to, Charlotte prefers not to out of spite, shocking I know, and Samantha would sooner take a header down the stairs at the Met Gala than have male friends of any description. Which leaves Carrie, who takes a route both predictable and inevitable by using this as an opportunity to moan about Mr. Big again. He and new girlfriend Natasha seem to be everywhere Carrie looks in New York, and she's making an unenthusiastic go of getting over it.
There is no way that the love that I had with Big is the same thing that he has with Natasha.
Natasha, when'd you stop calling her the idiot stick figure with no soul?
Fair enough, she hasn't met with the same apparent romantic success that they have, but it's not like she spent the months since their second breakup living in a convent crocheting Jesus tea cozies. That night, Carrie figures she might as well chain smoke this issue of post-breakup etiquette into a column's worth of copy. She wonders if there's some elusive equation she hasn't solved yet that can reliably maneuver a man back into the friend zone. Those of you who have already seen the show will know that this little thought experiment is arguably to blame for every one of Carrie's considerable conflamas for the next 2, probably 4 seasons. But as the saying goes, the road to hell is paved with shit intentions. Ultimately, the whole messy issue boils down to this week's headline: can you be friends with an ex? That weekend, Steve makes clear his position when he drops by Miranda's apartment unannounced. Probably just glad he didn't interrupt her dismembering another ex entirely, she apologizes for running away from him like Kanye fans run away from holding him accountable for his actions. They agree to give being friends a try, because who else would be brave enough to tell Miranda that she has a snotty schnoz?
You got a bat in the cave.
During a run in the park, Charlotte gets what plays for us as a disturbing flashback to her childhood when she spots someone riding a horse. It results in her pulling this face, which does lead me to conclude that she's the lesser-known sister of Mr. Hands. Charlotte's first love was apparently her horse, Taddy, who began a pattern replicated by all the other men in her life by desperately bucking her off and leaving her face down in the shit he left behind. Taddy was then apparently sold to another family by Charlotte's father, and she never rode again. That does have a whiff of the old dog going to live on a farm about it, so I'm assuming the furthest Taddy went was being used to glue together the York family's broken furniture. Despite these painful memories, Charlotte decides that it's time to get over it, and for a change, mounts something that doesn't have an accountancy degree and a secret upstate family. Elsewhere, Samantha is dressed for success and lingering outside a Prada store. That's where she bumps into a smartly dressed guy who looks like he recently quantum leaped into the future from a low-budget 80s soap opera. Regardless, she's interested, and his directness in asking her out leads her to pretentiously label him Mr. Cocky. Back at Carrie's place, the discovery of a dress that's actually from the 80s in her closet somehow acts as the trigger she's been waiting for to start interfering in Big's new relationship. She calls him up under the pretense of rekindling a friendship they've tried and failed at before, so we already know she's lying about her intentions. Unexpectedly, she reaches Natasha first. After a panicked hang-up, she calls back and gets Big this time, mumbling through excuses for her weirdness, presumably because saying it's not your girlfriend I'm trying to get back with isn't a viable option.
Did you just call?
No? Well, yes, but I didn't get to talk because, I hit the thing.
Somehow it gets worse when she admits to having written and then reads out a prepared speech which ends up being a stilted plea for peace between their warring privates. This results in Carrie booking them lunch at Fancy 11 Madison Park, evidently assuming that dating rules still apply and she won't be paying for her plate. She's energized by Big's unexpected and obvious anxiety over their meeting.
Are you hungry? Because I'm hungry. I got up at 6, worked out, hardly had any breakfast. They have a great Cobb salad here.
Not a huge surprise, considering the last time he was in a relationship, dining with other women resulted in one of Carrie's many Bradshaw apocalypses. Harking back to her column, Carrie remembers that if you want a solution to an equation and don't care whether it's good or bad, then alcohol makes a suitable addend. With the social lubrication and conversation finally flowing, Carrie pointedly steers it towards her replacement, to Big's clear and understandable apprehension. Maybe he could hear her opening a new dossier under the table. Carrie gets way more than she bargained for when this line of questioning reveals the real reason why Big showed up carrying the neurotic payload of 1,000 chihuahuas. He's not jittery because he's seeing her, he's jittery because what he came to tell her was that he and Natasha are actually engaged. Honestly, he might as well have dropped trow and coiled one off on her Cobb salad. And that's when, for the first time in a while, Carrie goes nuclear. She accurately recalls and skewers Big's previous commitment phobia and the season 1 pledges never to marry again. Well done, writers. For dessert, she flambés his ability to get over it in 5 months for, as far as we know at this point, a 20-something clothes horse with a face like she's been vaping pure lemon juice. It's all somewhat undercut by her flouncing exit managing to tear apart half the restaurant.
Okay?
Here. Don't help me! Don't you help me!
And very nearly doing a triple salchow down the stairs onto her ass. Her final flourish is to wish Big a nice life with about as much sincerity as a senatorial sex scandal apology. The next day, Carrie accompanies Charlotte to her first horse ride in decades. Never one to knowingly improve a situation,
What the f*** is his problem?
she wears $300 heels to a stable like she's banking reasons to be annoyed in case her natural supply runs dry. Obviously keen to redirect any further Big talk, Charlotte explains the concept of breaking in a horse like this.
I mean, some horses, they never really like to be ridden. Taddy was like that when I first got him, but then once I broke him in, then he loved it.
So we've got two options. One, this was a deliberate choice for the performance, and watching Beauty and the Beast as a child affected Charlotte more than anyone knew. Two, Kristen Davis can't differentiate between passionate lust and pet ownership. Place your bets. In any case, the memory of Taddy comes rushing back to her. She's overcome with either fear or sexual regret and runs off before she can go for a nostalgic canter. Or a sexy gallop. Who can tell? At Samantha's apartment, she's busy getting down to brass tacks with Mr. Cocky when he pauses and says that there's something he needs to warn her about first. Chances are that ex-boyfriend James and the over-the-top trauma she endured from his wee willy winky flash before her eyes. Turns out that Mr. C has the opposite problem. He's improbably well endowed.
That's quite big. Impressive.
He tries to temper Samantha's bug-eyed glee, but Sam's more of a learning by doing kind of girl. When she comes face to glance with Cockzilla, she gets a look on her face that says that she's seriously worried about the prospect of drowning in population paste. She does give it more than one try, even attempting to help things along with a bit of self-medication and, I assume, enough lubricant to turn the whole of Fifth Avenue into a slip and slide. But it all literally comes to nothing when she just can't handle the whole 9 yards, and reluctantly admits defeat. The next night, Miranda and Steve seem to be making a better go of being friends than Carrie and Big ever could. Back at Shea Hobbs after dinner, they do such a good job of it that they wind up sleeping together, and you could cut the tension in the air afterwards with one of Miranda's many knives. Despite her earlier claims of missing his company, post-nut Miranda is basically 4 limbs and a pair of fangs away from black widowing Steve's head off his shoulders. Just as it was before their breakup, the threat of an untimely death seems to be Steve's kink, so different strokes, I guess? Back in the park, Charlotte is giving things another go with new filly friend Pal, this time without Carrie because a horse is far less likely to rear up and kick you in the face. After a bit of farmyard ASMR, which once again makes you question who or what Charlotte really punched her V-card with.
Oh, my daddy liked that too, yes. I love my daddy so much. Oh.
She gets over her pony phobia and rides off into the sunset, probably to the nearest location with cobbled streets. Sensing he has another 20 years of this shit to put up with before the merciful embrace of death, Big calls Carrie to try and straighten out their issues. Eventually picking up, she exchanges apologies with him and says she hopes that she can one day join he and Natasha for a friendly drink. Which would be like taking your new prostitute for cocktails with Jack the Ripper. In any normal scenario, that would be the end of it, and they'd never speak again. But Big, it turns out, either wants to keep Carrie around as a spare, or is already wishing for Natasha's untimely demise and doesn't want to hire a hitman. Because, a week later, he sends Carrie an invitation to his engagement party. The day of, Carrie drowns her sorrows with the other ladies 6 blocks away from the party at the Plaza Hotel. When Carrie wonders aloud why it was Natasha and not her that gets to walk down the aisle towards Big's megamind head, Miranda unhelpfully compares him to Robert Redford's Hubble from The Way We Were. Of course, that would make Carrie the Barbara Streisand of this situation. Her character Katie, for those not in the know, was a Marxist anti-war protester. And the closest Carrie's ever likely to come to political activism is shouting at her TV during a style retrospective of Jackie O. Carrie decides on the spot that the movie is a perfect metaphor for her entanglement with Big. She's the wild, complicated protagonist, and any woman chosen over her is therefore simple, an easy way out. It's a bold assumption, especially considering she knows absolutely f*** all about Natasha at this point. But this level of delusion is literally Carrie's last option for closure before switching genre entirely and living out the plot of Girl Interrupted instead. Inspired, Carrie treks down to the plaza to find out why Big would sign up to the simple life and not the balls-to-the-wall insanity of being contractually tied to her forever. As Natasha watches on from a waiting car, Carrie puts him on the spot, and he unfortunately plays right into her fantasy, confirming what she suspected about his new fiancée being less of a 5-alarm f***up. Satisfied that it wasn't that he didn't want her, it's that he couldn't handle her, which isn't the compliment she takes it as, she strides away. As she passes by a carriage horse, she decides that some women just can't be tamed. Luckily for her, this theory never gets tested, because if she'd hung around a few seconds longer, there's every chance a bridle would have been thrown over her head and she'd wind up ferrying tourists around Central Park. At least until Charlotte wonders why her next nag keeps humming the Streisand songbook and rejecting her advances. And just like that, we're done. I hope you enjoyed the ride, and if you did, remember to leave a like and subscribe. Last week's top comment came courtesy of the apparently appropriately named I'm Small and Angry, who ran a long con on their local bus services into their college years. I'll see you in the 4th circle of hell, my friend. But I'm afraid I do have some bad news, and there really isn't a good way to say it. Unfortunately, this is the end of Sex and the Shitty. Season 2, of course, will be continuing into Season 3 and beyond. I'm going to take a couple of weeks off for a bit of housekeeping and then we'll dive right back in. Keep an eye on the community tab for news about the premiere. Genuinely, thank you all for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Take care of yourselves, see you soon, and remember, if you can't be good, be crusty.